and joking too. Sipping and roasting is what we do. Light 'em up, drink 'em down. Whiskey and cigars all around. Cheers, y'all.
Well. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza known internationally as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen, show number 228. That would put us halfway to 300.
Halfway to 300,
yeah,
exactly.
Pretty excited about that. Welcome to the show. We are excited about today's show. We're always excited about the show, and I think it's largely because it usually involves talking about cigars and drinking some beers and maybe even a little whiskey. So it's hard not to be excited about that when you're us.
I do, and I always enjoy when I pull it up on Facebook, seeing some old friends and some new ones chiming in because it says, so-and-so's watching. It's always fun.
It is. We appreciate you guys being along with us on the chat on Facebook. Now, we haven't talked too much about this, but we have been spending the last several months preparing Smokin' and Toastin' to be taken out as a syndicated radio program and to be able to make it available for radio stations around the country to plug into their, weekend talk show lineup or whatever, wherever they want to put it, really. And so that effort is now beginning in earnest. We'll see if anybody thinks this show is worth having.
Even it's from like 2 to 4 in the morning. That's okay. I remember many times getting off at gigs where I was like, there's got to be something on the radio interesting.
I can recall listening to the guys who talk.
Artie Bell.
The guys who talk forever about the Galveston fishing conditions. Have you heard those guys?
Yes.
It's oddly interesting.
Yes. And there were a few times where I was listening to the Garden Line Variety Show by Randy Lemon. And what's funny is I actually teach his daughter how to play guitar now.
It's a small world, right? But I wouldn't want to paint
that.
it. Yeah. I listen to that Art Bell guy every now and then.
Yeah, it was Art Bell and then George Norrie, and it was I've listened to those.
I liked Art Bell.
Coast.
I liked Art Bell because he is absolutely convinced that aliens have already landed on the planet. That's.
Are you saying they haven't?
No, I'm not at all. I'm just saying Art Bell is convinced of that, and so that makes him one of those interesting guys to listen to.
Not to wrap a conspiracy theory into a conspiracy theory, but I think maybe some of those conspiracy theory guys might actually be the aliens.
I think that's largely possible. Mm-hmm. Think about that. That'll send your brain into a little twirl there, won't it? Well, welcome to the show. We are brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com. Excellent shirts for cigar lovers. Available on the web starting under $20. New designs coming for spring. And
I can't wait.
MyCigarShirts.com because
cigars.
Yeah, they're a sponsor of the show, so please support those guys. We're here with show number 228 and our special guest, Joe Breda from Old Humble Distilling, making a return to the show. And he already told me, Ian, he brought along something. Was experimental the word that you used?
It is highly experimental, and I haven't even tried it yet.
That's fantastic. We love being guinea pigs. That works for us. Is that your experimental prelude music?
That just builds tension.
I appreciate it.
I could keep going with it.
Like
I could keep, stop there, but I could keep. And then I run out of frets.
Is that a real ukulele, or is that like just a sort of a?
No, this is okay. So this is a real ukulele. This is an actual. I get what you're saying because there's a lot of them that are sold for like $35 at Toys R Us type places or whatever.
And it does have the nylon strings. So.
And nylon strings are standard. That is on
that
standard on a ukulele.
Normal ukulele thing.
And oddly enough, nylon strings people think they're cheap because they're nylon, but they actually cost more than steel strings for.
Really, and I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So now there's only 4 of them and they're small, so they are kind of inexpensive for ukulele. But good nylon strings are actually more expensive than good steel strings.
Now, doesn't a normal ukulele have 5 strings though?
No, 4 strings. Almost universally 4 strings on a ukulele. And this one has a couple little different design things. This has
I see those
little F holes in it, like a violin or like an arch top guitar, which I think is kind of cool. And then it has this cool little side sound hole in it. I'm putting this on the thing.
Yeah.
And that just makes it a little loud here. This is a crap brand ukulele.
Okay.
I might get in trouble for saying this. It's a Stag brand. Stag makes cheap stuff. It's all made in wherever it's made in. It doesn't really matter. But every once in a while, they come out with something at a price point that's actually really pretty surprisingly good.
Surprisingly good for what it costs.
And this is kind of one of those things, you know. This it just ends up being a pretty good little ukulele. So I think it sells for about $175 or something like that. So it's not a toy, but it's not exactly a Martin either. So
I was going to say if the brand was actually crap, they should probably change it.
Yeah.
But it's fine for taking around the bars and the mud and the blood and the beer and everything like that. You know what I mean?
I hear you. It's good, and great for bringing up here to smoking and toasting, because you never know, what mayhem might ensue in the studio, and you might lose a string or something.
Hilarious comment things. I guess Bruce Stark put my dog has fleas, and Adam put my cat has 3 legs.
That's true, by the way. I've spent time with Adam's cat, and it does have 3 legs. So,
my brother and sister-in-law had a cat named Snowflake or Snowball. I can't remember which one. Big white cat that lost a leg to a javelina.
A javelina.
A javelina.
There's a story.
Basically took the cat's leg, but and the cat lived for like 10 years after that or more. And was the best mouser in the house.
I'm sure.
That's a story you need to start with the ukulele playing in the background.
Right, absolutely. You could even say my cat has fleas and go from there.
I need to work on
why
it. The
does a
problem
cat-
the problem is when I do background music, it messes him up because
I start listening to the music.
I try to back up his stories, but then he just stops and it distracts him.
It's just a thing.
He's waiting for the break so he can start talking. That's
right.
a radio thing.
It absolutely is. So yesterday
Tell me about it.
was National Beer Day. I hope you celebrated. I did.
I had beer.
Okay, good. As long as you had beer
had
for National
good
Beer
beer,
Day,
too.
you were celebrating. We'll celebrate it a day late here on the show as we sample some things from our friends out in Blanco, Texas at Real Ale Brewing.
I love their beers.
They have one that is, if it's not new, it's new to me. I bought it for the first time. It's called Crispy Business, and it's a lager.
I've never had that.
Okay, so
But I will tell you, I buy they have bombers of their quad ale, and they're real heavy, and they're like $5 each.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
I buy one of each of those whenever I see them.
Yeah.
And if you drink both of them in one night, you are definitely
having a night.
yes.
Well, we'll try their Crispy Business Lager today, and then something that looks very special. It's in a big bomber, and it's from the Ale Apothecary. We've had something from them on the show before.
Nice.
It is their flavor packet, wild ale, brewed with honey and aged in wine barrels.
That sounds fun.
So it
So
does
it's going to
sound
be a
fun.
sour.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely one of those sourish wild ale type experiences.
those.
So, and then we haven't ever tried this before, or at least I haven't. You might have. From Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, it's Leinenkugel's Snowdrift Vanilla Porter.
Leinenkugel,
Interesting.
the second or third maybe oldest brewery in the United
they've
States.
definitely been.
They are, however, owned by Molson Coors.
I remember back in the day when the show was young, when we hadn't even hit 100 episodes
I
yet.
remember when the show was young.
Yeah, we tried a
Me and
Leinenkugel's
Cruze were
brew.
having so much fun. I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah, see, and I'm distracted again. It happens. It's all anytime you do music. But I remember we called Leinenkugels on the show. Remember, to make sure we were pronouncing their name right. And they did confirm that it is Leinenkugels. So we'll look forward to that. Plus, Joe is here with Old Humble Distilling. He says he's brought goodies. I haven't.
Yay.
You hiding something back there? Because I haven't seen. Oh,
He's got a whole
Oh, he's got
backpack.
a whole backpack. All right.
I got him.
He's got the backpack. Does
yeah.
anyone out there not have this Swiss Gear backpack that is apparently like
it's
the most
fantastic.
ubiquitous and awesome backpack ever?
Yeah.
It
it
fits
is
3 full bottles of whiskey.
Well, you got to love that.
I love it. With
And,
no
there's
A,
no
B,
labels.
and C, or
So-
C-A-B, cab.
Yeah, so you gotta figure that he knows which one's which, and we'll be trying them in the proper order. So that's something we will look forward to.
Now it's back.
We will look forward to that for sure. We will have drinking news on the show today. We're going to do something a little different for drinking news. It's not a Florida man story today. Instead, we have a collection of stories that people have shared about things that they did when they were drinking. So it'll be, a little bit different, but I think you'll enjoy it. Plus, all kinds of stuff going on today in the world of cigars, including Cigar Aficionado released their list. This is this is actually my favorite list that they do. It's even better than the year-end list of the best cigars of the year. It's their best buys from 2020. In other words, it's where they go, okay, of the less expensive cigars that we tested and rated, here are the ones that did the best. And that I'm always interested in.
It's always easy to find a good cigar. I mean, frankly, if you go spend anywhere between $10 and $20, your cigar is probably
almost
gonna be good.
guaranteed.
Now, that's not a guarantee.
Yeah,
but
almost.
it's a pretty good indicator
Yeah.
overall.
But-
Because if you have the balls enough to sell a cigar for that much, it needs to be that
You better be
Yeah.
backing it up, or you won't be selling many.
Yeah, exactly. So that's pretty easy. But finding ones under $10 that are amazing, and under $7 or under $6, that starts getting harder and harder. And I really love that search.
And I really enjoy smoking cigars, so that limits the number of $20 cigars that I'm going to be able to smoke.
I
right?
would smoke them all the time if I only smoked one cigar a month.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No problem. How much that cost? $20. Really? Yeah. It's my cigar for this month. It'd be
That'd be really easy, right?
Easy to justify. Yeah. But unfortunately, I have a tendency to smoke a little more often than that. So unless you're my doctor and you're listening, everything I'm saying is allegorical. So
yes,
don't.
It's hypothetical.
Yeah. Absolutely. I could.
If I were to
it's
smoke
possible
cigars.
that I could. So anyway, we'll go over that list, and that will be pretty interesting. Craft beer production was down in 2020, which should not be a surprise. But there's some good news. It was stronger than expected. In other words, the expected drop was going to be a lot lower than where it landed. So that's some good news for craft beer, and we'll share some of that information with you on the show today. Plus, we've been trying to get to this. Hop Culture rated their 20 best breweries of 2020, and we haven't been through that list yet. So I'm looking forward to going there if in fact we can. But when there's 3 bottles of Old Humble sitting in there and they're staring at you, you never know what we're actually going to have time to get to on the program today. Joe, we've talked with a lot of different people from distilleries and breweries and always seem to ask this question: how are you guys holding up in the world that was created for us about a year ago by the pandemic, when everything started locking down and so many bars closed that might have been pouring your stuff? It became more difficult for people to come and do things at the distillery. How did that affect you guys, and how have you managed to get through it?
Well, it's been a really tough year. We were in October of 2019. We went full time at the distillery. We were doing it part time for the previous 5 years. We're a one-man shop,
and that's when
I
you
say
said,
we,
okay.
I mean me.
Yeah, that's when you said, okay, I'm no longer going into the office.
Exactly.
I'm going into the distillery.
I'm going into
every
my
day.
office.
Yeah.
Now. We took it full time in October 2019. November and December, we were building up our sales and our distribution networks, and we were really getting all the infrastructure set and on the ground so that in January and February, when the new year hit, we were able to go out.
Able to really roll it
I was
out.
able to go out, great guns, hitting all the stores, doing sales. We had 2 great months in January and February of 2020, and then we shipped out whiskey for resupply. I was moved out of our old facility at the end of 2019. We were poised to move into our new facility at the beginning of 2020, early in 2020. And then at the beginning of March, everything stopped. Like no tastings, no sales, nothing. I fully expected our sales to drop off like 90%. As it turns out, our sales only dropped off about 75%. So it was it turned out to be a great
better
year.
than expected.
Talk about being able to look at something with rose-colored glasses. Like, hey, we're only down 75.
And I mean, the benefit we benefited in unusual ways. Like,
Well, that's more whiskey for you, right?
well, in some ways, yeah. One of the ways that we benefited was that the permitting and regulation slowed down at the Harris County offices, so we were slow to get into our new facility, which meant we saved on rent for 3 months.
Okay.
I mean, we started the year off without a place to live, basically, and everything was in storage in a bonded warehouse, and everything was basically waiting. So we were able to save on rent for a few months, and then when we were finally able to move into the new place and get our production moving again, we still didn't have electricity until like October.
Wow.
So we haven't lost anything with regards to our tasting room being closed because we didn't have our tasting room open yet.
Right. So it wasn't like you had a certain amount of revenue coming from that
And
that went away.
Right. It's just the new revenue streams have kind of been delayed, but all that money that we were going to put into the new equipment in the tasting room and get everything open in like March and April, that went to paying rent for the rest of the year and keeping operations
when you
running.
weren't coming, when you didn't have something coming in. Yeah.
And we lost 6 months of our operations because we couldn't go back into specs and do tastings until September, October. So that was tough.
I was in specs this week and I noticed. I think it's been like this for a while, but I hadn't noticed it before. The barrels that they set up to use as the base for a tasting, they've all got these plastic shields up. In front of them now to create some separation and protection. And I thought, well, that's cool. You can hand the whiskey sample around the plastic. And
when we're doing our tastings, we have to wear masks, we have to wear gloves, hand sanitizer, do all that stuff to make sure everything's nice and clean. And I can't hand you the cups. You have to pick the cup up yourself. So there's no cross contamination.
Just to complete the illusion, I think you should just wear scrubs.
I think so. Yeah,
wouldn't that be great?
A full hazmat suit.
I mean, put your logo on it.
It'd be easy enough to find the guys that were doing the tasting. Oh, there he is, the guy with the hazmat on over there.
With the mask on, with the creepy window for your eyes.
So another benefit that we had, instead of focusing all my effort on going out and doing sales, I had to retrench and figure out how to keep the name of the distillery out there in the public. Because liquor sales were up, but the liquor sales that were up were liquors that people knew.
Right.
Jack,
the
Jim,
big brands,
Wild, all the turkeys and all those things people knew about. They just go and grab the familiar thing. You don't necessarily try the new stuff that you never heard of. So for 6 months, I'm out there just screaming from the rooftops, try our stuff, try our stuff, try our stuff. I started doing YouTube broadcasts, live streamed podcasts of Old Double Happy Hour twice a week.
That's great.
In order to just keep the name out there. I focused
I'm not
on
sure
our
the podcasts work. I'm just joking.
Focused on our Twitter outreach. Went from something like 250 Twitter followers to we're right at 6,000 right now.
Nice.
Wow. And I put out a tweet yesterday. If we hit 10,000 by the All-Star break, I'll put out a special limited edition label, Astro's Orange label, that'll only be available at the distillery.
Nice. Yeah.
That seems to be fairly
Speaking of which,
popular.
how is the distillery coming along? Last time I saw it, it was nothing was hooked up.
It's coming along. Our capital campaign, we've hit our minimum fundraise on our capital campaign.
Awesome.
We've stormed past 40,000 as of this. Thank you. As of this week, which means we'll have the funds for the tasting room to build out the tasting room. We'll be able to do
awkwardly long.
Yeah, I know. We'll be able to build out the tasting room and get a bathroom. Which once we get a bathroom, we can have guests. That'd be great. Right now, we have a men's room only because we're in the woods.
Yes, the back of the place is basically facing the woods.
I love it.
I used the men's room when I was there last time.
Exactly.
But we the capital campaign's it's not done. There's still 2 weeks. If people want to invest in the distillery, they can. Go check us out on oldhumbledistilling.com. There's a link. You can go. It's not a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe. It's an actual investment that they get paid back 180% over the course of 7 years.
Nice.
Oldhumbledistilling.com. Go check us out.
And as someone who has tasted the product, I mean, this is an investment that is, this is going to work, folks. This is not, I'm no, and I mentioned this to someone this week. We never give investment advice on smoking and toasting because some of those shows that give investment advice are getting into trouble now because they're trying to get people to buy into, their funds. And then there's some Ponzi activity going on and all that kind of stuff. So let me just say that I can't give you advice. But if you're wondering about the quality of the product, I can vouch for that.
By the way, his name was Madoff. Did anyone get that?
Yeah.
Madoff.
It does.
Anyone understand
that? It does seem like we should have seen that one coming, doesn't it? It really does.
The returns are actually based on revenue from the distillery, too.
Yeah.
So, as we grow, the payments will grow until it hits that.
That place
until it gets fully paid off.
That's very cool.
And that's one of the things I liked about it.
That's very cool.
But also, we're going to have a cigar club through the distillery. And
I'm liking it.
We could talk about that in a little bit because I got a little present for y'all.
All right.
I've already booked our first act for September, our first band in September. We're going to start filling up that schedule for people to play at the distillery in the tasting room. We're planning our Memorial Day concert. Things are moving now. It's finally beginning to thaw out, and things are finally beginning to move forward.
I have a band you might want to book. My friend Rowdy Yates sent me a video yesterday of this band covering Eric Clapton's Cocaine. It was the worst rendition of an Eric Clapton song I've ever heard.
Dude, how do you mess
And I
up
thought,
that song?
I know. Well, they managed, and I just thought, you know what? If this band, if I knew they were playing somewhere, I would actually go out to see them. It was that entertainingly bad.
Wow.
Yeah. So
It's like the wedding band with the crazy drummer. Have you seen that?
That's one of the greatest videos ever. But I'll pass that info along if you're interested in booking the Bad Clapton cover band. So.
Bad Clapton. That's the name.
Bad Clapton.
That's totally a
should be
band
the name. Bad Clapton.
Now, I'm not 100% sure yet when the tasting room will be open to the public.
Right.
The memorial concert that we're going to record will be to a small closed group. For
Like an invitation thing,
yeah,
right?
well, it's a local whiskey club that'll be coming out. It'll be like 20 people to fill
cool.
out the crowd. But our Memorial Day, every year we do a Memorial Day concert or show party at the distillery. Last year we had to do a pre-recorded thing on our YouTubes. This year I've spent a year learning how to use the broadcast equipment that we've got, so it'll be a little bit better show.
Awesome.
And we'll do part entertainment in the first half, and then just a 2-hour band concert live recorded at the distillery.
That
for the
sounds
second
awesome.
half. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a great
Sounds
show.
awesome. Well, the good news is that as things return closer to whatever normal is going to be, these activities are going to pick up. I'm so excited about going out to see live music again.
it's gonna be so much.
I can't even tell you.
So
That's
nice.
Probably the thing I have missed the most. I haven't missed the crowds because I'm not a big crowd guy. In fact, I was in Buc-ee's this week because we drove out to see my mom, and you stop at Buc-ee's because of the restroom facilities.
The
and-
restrooms are actually cleaner than almost every other restaurant.
But there were
That is
so
true.
many. There were so many people in there,
Yeah.
and it was packed so tightly. And I thought, some of this pandemic stuff has been good. I've liked people staying further away from me
Yeah.
in a crowd, but I really do miss live music, and I'm
Yeah.
excited about
Yeah.
getting back out to see that.
I had a guy when I was doing tastings a couple of weeks ago, came up to me and put his hand on my arm in the store. I'm like, where have you been the last year, man?
What are you
Jeez.
doing?
I've never been a big fan of crowds before the pandemic.
Yeah.
I've kind of enjoyed that as well.
Yeah,
I
same
do
here.
miss going to live music, and I'm one of those weird Texans that I go to Buc-ee's for the gasoline. And
then get
out
the
of
hell out of
as
there.
fast as I
and the
can.
ice. The ice is cheap too.
Yeah, 99 cents
gas.
for a bag. That's not bad.
I may venture in to get some chocolate covered almonds, but I've been known to turn around at the door.
The last time I was there, I got the dark chocolate covered pecans, and I could not stop eating those things. They're so good.
Every now and then at the checkout counter at Buc-ee's, they'll have these triple torch lighters for like $2, and they're awesome. Not always, but
I'll keep an
look,
eye out for that.
Look next time you're there. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, I want to find out about what you smoked this week, and we'll have more coming up with Old Humble Distilling, plus some beer tasting. I was going to make it all the way to the break before I
No
sneezed.
COVID.
I was going to make it all the way to the break, and it just didn't happen. We'll be right back at Smoking and Toasting, show number 228. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting, show number 228. Today we're talking about the best cigars for the money and Old Humble Distilling in the house with Joe Breda. Joe, welcome back. Is this the third time you've been on the show or the second?
I think
think
it's
it's the
the
third.
third time,
Yeah.
and if I show up 2 more times, I get a free one.
Okay, good. I was going to say, if you show up 2 more times, you join the Alan Denny Memorial Guest Club. That's what it is. It's, so I miss my buddy Alan. I haven't seen him in a while.
We haven't seen him in a while.
I know
right?
it's been too long. So, Alan, consider
We've had
yourself.
2 Chris Harts since the last Alan.
That's
weird.
that is a little weird, isn't it, man? We got Alan. Well, Alan's a busy guy. I think things are going well out there at the Galveston Island
that
Cigar
Galveston
Lounge.
Island Cigar Lounge, man. If you've been on the back patio at sunset, it's
One of the most incredible things.
Unbelievable.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
what we did the last time I was down there. We sat out there at sunset
So
and smoked.
good.
It was wonderful. Wonderful. Well, welcome back to the show. It's number 228. Ian, it's been a crazy week for me, but it always seems like it always is. I did have time to find something to smoke, though, and I'm wondering if you did as well.
I did. I went out on my patio today, and I brought out a little cigar that's been kicking around on my humidor for just a little bit. And I hadn't had one in a long time, and I was like, I remember really liking these. So this was a Flor Dominica,
Oh.
the Double Ligero.
Oh, that's a powerful cigar.
That is not Fisher Price my first cigar.
No, it is
That's
not.
for sure. That
Yeah,
is-
yeah. Dude,
It is like you have the scale of mild to full. This is pegged all the way to the
Yeah,
right on
the needle's
full.
bending a little
Yeah,
bit as it hits
it's
full.
shaking
Yeah,
and bending
for
a little bit.
sure.
It is this is a full flavored cigar, and I'll say that right off the bat. Now I do like full flavored cigars, but some full flavored cigars are a little too peppery. And they're just a little it's all spice and not a lot of flavor.
Right, not a lot
Hot
of
sauces
complexity.
fall under that same category too. They
Oh,
can
I'm totally with you.
sometimes they have great flavor and sometimes they're just hot. The Double Ligero, this was the DL 452, which is a 4x52 size cigar. So actually very short, but not a very skinny cigar. This is I believe it's classified as a Corona. Or maybe a mini Corona. I don't know. It's in the
Petite
Corona range.
Corona,
Yeah.
maybe?
It's not petite because it's not skinny though.
Okay, gotcha.
But because it is a 52 ring gauge. So anyway, the appearance on this light brown, almost a tan color, shiny, toothy, oily
beautiful
wrapper,
cigar.
oily and veiny wrapper, classic LFD band, La Flor Dominica, for those of you who don't know what LFD is. Smooth to the touch, firm feel overall. This it felt like a very solid quality cigar. The pre-light sniff on this, earthy, nutty, cinnamon and spices with some dark chocolate undertones in it. The pre-light draw on this, toasted nuts, cappuccino, dark chocolate is what I was getting right out of there before I even lit it. The initial light on this, you expect this La Flor Dominica, being as it is incredibly full flavored. You expect it to be this huge blast of pepper, and it's a blast of coffee with some
Interesting.
pepper.
Interesting. So that not exactly what you were expecting.
It's not what you expect, and it's so good. This is an oddly not as peppery as you would expect for such a big flavor cigar. I'll just let that ride out there as you listen to what I'm talking about. Bold, the initial light, burst of coffee and peppery spice, bold, sweetened coffee and wood on the retrohale, full strength right from the start. There's no sneaking into this cigar. It burst the door down like Coltrane going into a solo. It's just, I'm in. The first third of this, big flavors, classic LFD, full strength complexity, sweet espresso, oaky wood flavors and dryness, dark bitter chocolate, unexpected underlying grassy notes that I was getting in there that I don't remember tasting that before, but it was really nice in there. Woody and sweet coffee, retrohale, solid ash, great burn. The second third of this, the pepper is a little more present here. Oak and cinnamon with cappuccino and dark chocolate kind of swirling around the palate. Retrohale is oak and coffee with toast, solid ash, great burn. I haven't lost the ash on this cigar yet.
I'm looking at the picture. You're halfway in, and that ash is still as solid as ever.
That ash lasted until the picture where I show the very small cigar. It fell off right before I snapped that picture.
Wow.
So the ash lasted for 2/3 of the cigar.
That's
a full
great.
2/3.
Wow.
The last third of this, oaky dryness with toast, a touch of vanilla sweetness kind of showed up in the end of this. Pepper and cinnamon backing the full strength of this flavor bomb. Ash is still holding on, tangy, fresh cut wood, and then I put an addendum, ash just fell off.
So that's all
at the
that was
end.
left of your cigar.
When the ash
When the
finally
ash
fell
fell
off,
off.
yes.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's
and what a
impressive.
great cigar. What a great burn. This was a $7 cigar. It's kind of a short cigar for $7, but it is not a small cigar because it is a 52 ring gauge. I paid $7 for this thing. I'm giving it a solid 7. I forgot how much I love these
7?
cigars.
Wow.
7. Price to quality,
It's a big
7.
number.
And you can get the bigger versions of these in the $9 range. And I've had them before. They're absolutely fantastic. And then they make the chisel version of it. They
Yes,
make-
I've had the chisel.
a few others that are just absolutely. And they make a Panatella, the long skinny Lonsdale.
Oh, Lonsdale, yeah.
There's a ton of. I think they have something like 9 different shapes for this cigar.
Wow.
But this was the 4x52, and it was fantastic. A solid 7. I'm super happy with it.
That is awesome. Well, let me tell you about mine, and maybe while I do that, you can prepare us a little lager from Real Ale.
If you insist.
This is something I'm really looking forward to
so
trying.
nice.
I had an interesting one, and it's been a while since I smoked one of these brand cigars. I had the Padilla or the Padilla. Finest Hour Oscuro Double Toro. So Padilla's done everything from...
neither one of us went on the light side this
No,
time.
no, we didn't actually. Padilla's done everything from El Cheapo bundle cigars, that are good for mowing the lawn, to ultra high-end expensive sticks. This one is kind of in between. The name Finest Hour comes from Winston Churchill, who used that phrase in a speech that he gave before the Battle of France. The Finest Hour Oscuro uses a Connecticut broadleaf wrapper and binder, Connecticut broadleaf wrapper, rather, and then binder and filler tobacco from Nicaragua and Honduras. Pre-light was a little bit earthy and a stronger than usual sort of hay and barnyard thing. You get that on the pre-light of a lot of cigars, or at least I do. But this one was a little more distinct. Like it was a stronger aroma than a lot of them that I've had. I used a punch and got my first sign of trouble when the punch, when I pulled it out, pulled off the wrapper cap completely off the head of the cigar. And as far as I can tell, I'd used the punch properly.
You've used the punch before.
Slow.
I'm pretty sure that's probably.
So it concerned me a little bit. It also the cigar felt a little loose to me, like it wasn't quite packed with enough tobacco. It had some soft spots. Some right around where the cap had come off, and then some further down on the cigar. And that, of course, can make a cigar burn a little hot.
So these are not red alerts, but they're at least in the amber range.
Right, exactly. So I'm like, okay, let's see how we do. So once I lit the cigar, I got a nice blast of Nicaraguan pepper, not too overwhelming, but enough to let you know, there's Nicaraguan tobacco in this. And then when it settled down, I got a bit of nuttiness and some toast and a sense of that hay that I noticed on the pre-light. Not as strong as the pre-light, but definitely some of it there. First third of this burned a little bit crooked, but I left it alone, and it pretty much straightened itself out, at least for a while. By the second third, the burn was pretty straight, and the toast moved front and center in the flavors. There was also a little hint of licorice or anise in the finish. The ash held on for quite a while, but eventually made a beeline for my shirt. I moved just in time to avoid an Ian moment. But yeah, it held on for a while before that. There was a little bit of a bitter note on the finish in the final third. It could have been because the cigar was burning hot, which I'm convinced was,
that'll do it.
From it being underfilled. Barnyard and hay were less prominent. The toastiness stayed with me all the way to the end. The last third had a distinct nuttiness too, a little bit more than what I'd noticed in the first part of the smoke. I believe that this cigar is made in the A.J. Fernandez factory now. It wasn't when they first put it out, but I believe they've moved production there. And so it's $7 to $8, which is the price for this. It's really kind of impossible not to compare it to AJ's other cigars in that price range.
That are in that price range,
which isn't helping
like the Hoyo
the H. Upman, could have been just this particular stick. I only bought one. But it was definitely underfilled. That made it burn hot, and it also smoked really fast. I only got about 40 minutes out of a double Toro.
Wow.
Which is...
Just for comparison, I had a 4-inch cigar that smoked 45 minutes this morning.
And I wasn't in the wind, so it was not because of that. So there were some interesting flavors. I get the feeling that if the cigar were better filled and smoked slower, those flavors would have been more enjoyable. The sort of little bit of bitterness that I was getting wouldn't have marred those so much. So I'm definitely going to buy another one and see if the roll is any better on this one. Based on this one cigar, though, I'm not going to recommend it. Get a Bella Artez or an H. Upman by AJ for about the same price, and you won't be disappointed. Price to quality on the Padilla Finest Hour Oscuro Double Toro 4.
Wow.
It just, if it had been a couple of dollars cheaper, I would have given it maybe a 4.5. But at that price, there's just too many great cigars you can smoke that will be a lot more rewarding.
I reviewed that back in 2020.
Mm-hmm. Because you're ahead of the curve.
I gave it a 3.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, did you have the same issues? I don't remember now your review. Do you have your notes there?
I have my notes right here. So this was the Double Toro.
Mm-hmm.
So the same one, Finest Hour. Let's see. A lot of the same stuff you said, like with pepper in the background. I got tea and cedar and some white pepper. Good burn, solid ash. The second third, more of the same, ramped up spice and pepper, solid ash. The last third, bitterness becomes harsh, gave up.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if it was. In my case, I was wondering if it was because it was underfilled, but
Yeah,
maybe
so
that's just
I guess
maybe that's just an issue with the cigar. I don't know.
Maybe that's just the flavor profile. I don't know.
Could be.
I actually remembered that when you started talking about it. I was like, I remember there being an issue with that. So I've been.
You're already doing some research.
I've been doing research.
Okay.
So
Talk
first
to me
off,
about
on the
this.
nose, it's got kind of a slightly sweet classic beer.
What is the beer?
This is the Crispy
lager.
Business.
Crispy Business
Crispy
lager
Business
from Real Ale.
Gotcha.
And the thing about that beer on the nose that you're talking
Got
about,
that very 80s looking.
very
theme
much
to
so.
it.
Yeah, almost expecting to hear like "Eye of the Tiger" by Survivor
Right.
or a Pat Benatar song or something.
I need a members only
Bad to the
jacket
bone.
to hang out with this
Bad
beer.
to the bone. Yeah.
But if you're hanging out with this beer in a members only jacket, it's got to be the tan one.
Yes. And you got to have the flap open, not
Yes.
but not snapped.
That's right.
This would
Yeah.
be the white button-down shirt, underwear, and socks only for this crispy business.
like
beer.
crispy business
Yeah.
instead of risky business.
and the cheap sunglasses.
Well,
Sunglasses.
I'll tell you, I could do
Come
a
on.
little underwear dance for this.
It's actually
a
pretty good.
beer.
It's,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that this is like a knock your socks off beer, but it's a damn good drinker.
It's straightforward, I
Yeah.
think, and you mentioned the sort of beer smell on the nose. That's a characteristic of a lot of lagers, I think.
This to me is straight up the dead center of what a lager should taste like, and it's good. It's not knock your socks off, but I'll pick this up. This will be a great I just want something on the lighter side. that
Great
drinks
summer
well, yeah.
beer. Yeah. What is the ABV on it? Does it say?
It's 4.5.
Okay, yeah.
ABV.
So pretty smashable.
Very delightful.
Not a whole lot of other information on here. Lager beer, crispy business, and the whole 80s theme can. I like Real Ale.
Yeah, I do
think
too.
Their Fireman's 4 is a great
And
like a great go-to if you it's a blonde ale.
don't they make Devil's Backbone?
They
Isn't
make
that a real
Devil's
ale?
Backbone.
Yeah.
By the way, if you just want to get hammered, a 6-pack of Devil's Backbone is not very expensive,
Yeah.
and it's like 8 or 9%,
And it's delicious, by the way.
and it tastes good.
Yeah, it really is
that's
good.
a bang for your buck right there.
Yeah, I like that these guys they seem to have not gone. They've zigged when everyone else has zagged.
My
you know?
favorites by them. Well, they didn't just jump on the I'm going to make 1,000 IPAs, bandwagon. But my favorites from them, their coffee porter is the standard for coffee porter. It is just such a good coffee porter. It was one of the earlier ones. We talked about that one before, and then on top of that, I mentioned earlier in the show the Wee Heavy and the Quad at $5 per bomber. It's hard to beat that. They're so good. They're so solid, and at that price point, man, that's like an 8.
I've noticed also that this beer that we're sampling right now, the Crispy Business, it gets better with every sip. It's one of those
we have
things.
just finished that can that
Yeah.
fast.
So that
There's
tells you something right there, right?
There's a lot of these lagers that I'll drink that have this kind of an aftertaste at the top, top of the roof of your mouth and kind of towards the back above the tongue.
A very yeasty
And it just
sort of
kinda-
aftertaste.
Kind
Yeah.
of sits there in the back as you drink it, and as it gets warmer, it gets more pronounced. This doesn't have that.
Right.
It's a bright, crisp, easy drink, and it's gone.
Crispy
But there's
Business.
a little malt sweetness that just follows the whole thing that I really enjoy.
Yeah, I'm finding myself wishing we hadn't polished off the can. It's
Where's the rest?
It's good. Yeah. You have
Now
the can.
I poured a little heavy, so we
Okay,
finished
well-
the can pretty quick.
Well, it was pretty
My
good
magic
stuff.
bag doesn't have more.
I
Sorry.
guess that means it's time to move on to whiskey. So,
it's whiskey time. baby.
Talk to me,
Whiskey
Joe.
business.
What
Whiskey business.
Whiskey
It
business.
goes from crispy business
to whiskey
to whiskey business.
I
Good
like
one.
it. I like it. So what would you like for us to sample here first, Joe?
All right, gentlemen. Well, this is what we've got. Our Skunk Works have been working on a rye, a little recipe for the rye, and this is the base. This is the what would you call it? The control.
Okay.
That's it.
So is this your first rye?
It will be our
I
first
thought so.
rye.
Okay, very interesting.
And the plan is for later in the year.
Are you going to call it Rye of the Ancient Mariner?
No.
No, he was very quick to respond to your question.
And this one here should taste like your
Ryan
standard
and
straight
Distilling?
rye. Mm-hmm. Should be just standard straight rye. This I have had.
Okay.
And it tastes like, for people who like rye, it tastes like rye.
So you
That's
say
it.
that
It just tastes like a rye.
the way that you say that makes me wonder if you're not as big a fan of rye.
There are certain ryes that I like.
Okay.
There are certain, just like with the IPA, a rye has a specific flavor profile that people who like rye look for that particular flavor
Right.
profile.
Absolutely.
Same way with people who like IPAs. They
This
search
is-
for this particular flavor profile.
This is
with the
rye,
IPA.
but it's not complex.
Right.
It's very simple.
This is a very simple rye, yeah. Now, Bullet makes a rye that is very rye.
Well, it's much more complex.
Right,
But-
exactly. And it
many
has
more
that flavor.
things
And
going on.
But you say that it's not complex, but it is incredibly easy to drink because it's very straightforward. You know what I mean? Like it's not something where you're taken aback by it a little bit. Some ryes have got all this stuff going on, and you have to kind of like stop and figure out what's happening. This is just a little more like an enjoyable sipper. You know what I mean?
This is simple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get it.
and that's kind of the intent with this particular one, is just for it
Is this
to
going to be a final product, or is this something
we're
that
still working
you're
on a
playing
few.
with?
Yeah, we're still working on a few things. Like I said, this one I haven't even tried yet. This one I've tried before.
Because I could see this.
This one is
in
pretty
its
standard.
super simple profile, I could see this being great for mixers, for doing the old fashioned, for doing the because it has that rye flavor, but it's
Right.
not doing a lot of other stuff, which leaves room for your mixers. I think
Right.
a lot of times.
Absolutely.
So I think realistically, I think that's.
Yeah, and that is kind of the intent. A lot of people don't. More people drink bourbon on the rocks and scotch on the rocks, and less people drink rye on the rocks. It's not uncommon, but most of the time they'll put rye in their mixers.
Have you ever had a good IPA with a rye back?
I'm
IPA
probably the wrong person to ask if I've had a good IPA.
IPA and rye whiskey.
I'm not a big fan of
Yeah.
IPAs.
No,
go
IPA and rye
incredibly
do.
well
They
together.
do. And
Yes.
that's what I can appreciate about IPAs is the way they're put together, and I can appreciate when one is supposed to taste like it's supposed to taste.
Like a pine cone.
Yeah, when it tastes right. It's not for me.
You know, the things
like
that
some
Cruze
people,
likes.
Some people like coconut pie.
Yeah, easy
I
there, big boy.
don't. But I can at least appreciate with IPAs and ryes how they go. And I found a few ryes that I actually really, really, really enjoy.
Well, there's. I mean, if you've ever had the Whistle Pig 18,
Yeah.
that'll change your worldview on
That'll
rye
knock you
real
around
quick
a
if you're
bit.
not
And-
if you're not
And
a
see,
fan.
part of it's because I like my whiskey to be a little bit less, a little bit more approachable, a little
Okay.
bit less,
Less busy.
a little bit less. The word I'm trying to not use is obnoxious.
But I know what you're saying.
but-
Pretentious, maybe.
Yeah, it's full of noise and flavor and all this stuff. I like it to be full of flavor, but there's just
How about a
lot
little
going
less
on.
enthusiastic on the palate?
Maybe that's it. But I can appreciate the way a good rye comes together, and that's what I'm looking. I'm looking for something specific, and this is really close to it. We got to put it back in the barrels and play with it a little bit more.
All right.
Like I'm gonna be straight up about this. There's nothing about this I don't like, but I would love to have a little more something in it, a little more complexity, a
Yeah.
little more interest.
That's what I'm looking for too.
So it's very okay.
Yeah. So we take a portion of this, and I've diverted it into two different barrels here,
Okay.
and that is where we go from here.
All right, so hang on to that thought. We'll get to
Absolutely.
that in one of our next segments. We are going to take a break. We have more beers to sample. We have drinking news still on the way, and we'll also be talking about this list of the best cigars for the money from 2020. So it's all coming up, and it's Smoking and Toasting, and we'll be right back.
All right.
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. It was a good save. I bumped this against my microphone stand and almost lost the rye, but no. I saved it with a quick reflex at the last moment. Welcome back to Smoking and Toasting. Our show is about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. It's show number 228. Joe Breda from Old Humble Distilling is here, and we're brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com. On the web, MyCigarShirts.com, because...
Cigars.
Yep. Ian, we're trying the wild ale here. Ooh. That was interesting.
That was the cork out of the bottle.
Yeah. Oh, Adam, there's your rye, by the way.
You know, beer is always special when you got a cork in the bottle.
Yeah, it always makes me feel like we've gone, I don't know, a little fancy. Even though we're pouring it into plastic cups, it makes me feel like we've gone a little fancy.
And they're not even fancy plastic cups.
But yeah, but you say that, but they were actually very expensive. I'm amazed at how much plastic cups cost.
That is true.
It's like unbelievable. I bought a bag of these this week for the show.
What's insulting about it?
I looked back at the receipt. I was like, oh my God, those cups were $6.
What's insulting about it is you're just going to throw them away.
Yeah.
You got to go to Amazon and get them in bulk, man.
Got to totally do that. Now, Walmart has them in a package where they're nice and cheap. I get them there sometimes. But the thing is,
you got to go to Walmart.
Yeah, you got to go to Walmart, A. And B,
that's like its own social punishment.
Right?
They come with lids for these, like little plastic lids. So you're talking about social punishment. I feel like the world's worst ecological person
because you're throwing away
all those lids without even using them. You
could bring them in here. We'll just have to put straws in everything. It'd be like a sippy cup. and you almost spilled your beer. Look at it wouldn't even have been a disaster.
You're right. It would have saved the rye. So
this smells sour.
So this is Ale Apothecary. It is called Flavor Packet. It's a wild ale brewed with honey
Toledo.
And aged in wine barrels. And this looks expensive.
Bottled in a wine bottle, too.
It says Uncle Nubby, and then has a picture of a hand with the first and second finger cut off.
Well, that would be Uncle Nubby.
AKA one-offs.
Actually, I'm glad it was his hand they were speaking of. So, Uncle Nubby, yeah. So what's your take on this? I heard you say, "Oh wow!" What's your response?
So there were 440 bombers produced.
Woo!
Brewed on 3/20/17. So this has been aging a little bit. Bottled on 11/20/18, and to celebrate this 300th brew, we took Mecca Grades Metolius and Opal malts. Somebody makes sense out of that. Mm-hmm. Along with raw, I don't know how to say this. Metolius, anyway. Along with raw wheat and aged in a first-use wine barrel. During aging, we poured Oregon honey into the cask twice to keep the barrel ferment more active than normal. The last barrel addition was wort that we boiled down for hours, hence the name Flavor Packet. Mm-hmm. Coming in at 9.1% alcohol. It is sour. It is big. There's more information over here. According to the Surgeon General, women should not drink alcohol. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, we knew you were going there. we knew it was bound to happen.
It had to.
Well, this is one of the most interesting beers I think we've had in a while. And I don't mean that to say it's interesting as in it's not good. It's actually quite tasty.
Big, ridiculous, fruity flavor and brutally tart and wine aftertaste. And
almost
it's
like
got a champagne-y kind of thing.
I was just about to say, almost like a champagne grape on the finish.
Yeah.
But this is exactly what you would expect, I think, from Ale Apothecary.
Well,
this is the kind of beers
when
they
you
do.
buy these 750 ml bombers like this is one you don't just sit around and drink this by yourself. This is let's all sit around.
It's a
and
communal
have
event.
Yes,
yeah.
Because
right.
When you have something that's interesting, I don't know if I could mow through an entire bomber of this because it's intense.
But it is. But it's so much fun to talk about with other people who are trying it with you. You know.
What are you thinking about?
It is definitely a post-COVID drink because you drink it with friends.
Yes, post-COVID.
It's a social drink.
Almost feels like it would blow COVID right out of your system if you were, not to advocate false cures, but wow.
That lemon lime flavor in it, I wasn't expecting. When you see a bottle like this, you should expect fruit. But that citrusy, it took a little get used to, but once I expect it, it's really good.
Bitter raspberry, like right by the leafy section, like it's got a lot going on.
Wow.
This is intense.
Yeah.
And you said it was brewed in 2017, bottled in 2018, is that right? So this has been aging for a while. And beers like this have a tendency to age really well as long as you don't keep them too long and wind up getting the the soy sauce like we had a few weeks ago.
Yes,
Yeah.
that will happen when they're
Yeah.
when they're too many years old. That can happen. The honey in this is only really evident after you've taken a few sips, and it
Right.
just shows up on the very outside of the palate. And then on the retrohale a little bit.
But
It's
it has a
very
tendency
interesting.
to soften the tartness just a touch.
Boy, it activates the saliva glands.
sure
does.
does,
Like, it's
doesn't
my
it?
mouth is
Watery.
just like
You hold it,
crazy
in
watering.
that little cavity behind your teeth and like run your tongue back and forth. through
Remember
it.
that sports
kinda
gum you
nice.
used to get at Target?
Oh, yeah.
Or not Target, but Academy, you know? that
Yeah,
would make
that
your-
Gatorade?
Yeah,
Gum.
Gator gum, yeah.
Yeah,
That's it.
it also does that thing, and there's got to be a scientific phrase for this. But you drink it, and like
It gives
right
you a
here
little tickle.
in the back of your jaw, you just feel like right behind your jaw at your neck, you feel that little woo.
Yeah, a little tingle. Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna
I
take
just
a.
poured myself more because
I saw you do that. You might want to do that for me as well. We will take a quick break, and we'll be back with more from Old Humble Distilling. Drinking News is on the way. And in our next segment, we will talk cigars and the best buy cigars. Best cigars for the money from 2020, according to the experts at Cigar Aficionado. Welcome back.
I like that, man.
It's nice to have you guys with us on Smoking and Toasting, the show that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. My name is Cruze. My co-host is Ian Barry.
Howdy, y'all.
Adam is our producer on the Wheels of Steel, and Joe Breda from Old Humble Distilling is in the studio with us today. We'll be getting to some more whiskey here in just a moment. But I have to say, this Ale Apothecary flavor packet beer that we tried in the last segment, it's one of those things that, like, we were talking about this in the break. At first, it's like, you know, this may take me a minute. Now I just can't get enough. Like, I keep going back to it and sipping it and wanting to relive that little flavor explosion that you get, you know? It's really something. Are you digging this the way I am, Ian?
I really enjoy it, actually. It is highly acidic, though. I could see if you're
Yeah.
a person, and I have some friends that are highly prone to heartburn.
Yeah.
If you're highly prone to heartburn, this probably gives it to you almost instantly.
Yeah, you're gonna
'cause it
wanna-
is highly acidic.
You're going to want to take your omeprazole before you
right.
have a bottle of this.
I'm glad
for
you
sure.
said that because I never knew how to pronounce that.
Well, it took me a while. I used to just call it Prilosec or whatever,
Yes,
but
it's all
now I buy
Prilosec.
the cheaper generic version. So we are brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com. Really cool cigar shirts on the web. None of us wore one today, but they've got really cool, snarky cigar sayings. Go and check them out. Sweatshirts, hoodies, and T-shirts.
I'm waiting for you to let me know when the new styles are out, and that's when I'm going to go do a shopping.
Okay, very good. Well, it won't be long, I promise you, my friend. They're in development, in production now. So, I wanted to get to this list real quick because I have a feeling we're going to get into some serious whiskey discussion here as the show continues. So, I wanted to get to this list real quick because I think this is one of the most important lists that we can share. This is Cigar Aficionado's best buys of 2020 cigar list. So, what they do is they go back to all the cigars that they reviewed during the year, and they take the ones that are under a certain price point. I want to say probably under $10, but I bet they're even under $8. I'm looking at the prices here real quick. I don't see anything over $6.
Nice.
So these are all going to be cigars that the suggested retail price, they may be higher or lower wherever you shop, but the suggested retail price on these is under $6. And then they go, okay, which one scored like an 89 or more on their scoring scale? And the highest I think I've ever seen a cigar get on their scale is like a 95.
94, 95.
94,
something,
95. If it gets a 90 or above, it's considered fantastic.
Yeah, everyone puts Cigar Aficionado, a little tag on that
rated
stuff.
90 plus on Cigar Aficionado. So starting on this list with a Nicaraguan cigar from Tatuaje, it's the Havana 4 Verocchio number 5. That's a lot of numbers and words, but it's basically a petite Corona that sells for $4.50. And
I've had Verocchio. It's good.
Cigar Aficionado gave it Verocchio. Is that how you say it?
Verocchio, I think.
Verocchio. They gave it an 89. They also gave that that to the Undercrown Shade Corona Pequeña, and where they list size for the Tatuaje, the size says Petite Corona. For this, the size, it says odd. but it really just looks like a little Robusto. It may be a little fatter at the foot than it is at the head, but it's not a torpedo. It was dated. It was scored with an 89.
Listen,
and it's a $5.50
Undercrown
cigar.
is just one of the best buys on the market.
So consistent.
Yeah, so consistent and good cigar, bang for the buck.
The Nat Seco Casino Real Bellicoso at $5.69, a little figurado. Also got an 89. It's a Nicaraguan cigar.
Have not tried that.
The Muwat Baitfish, and Muwat stands for My Uzi Weighs a Ton, and that's a Drew Estate, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a $6. I'm sorry.
They also have their fire cured, the Muwat fire cured.
Yes, it's a $5.10 cigar. It's the Baitfish. It looks like, it also says size odd, but it basically looks like a Robusto.
Gotcha.
And the next one is also a size odd. It came in at a 90. It's the Underground Maduro Corona Pequeña, $5.50. It's a little cigar, but it looks pretty wonderful.
The Undercrown Maduros are a go-to for me. 100% go-to.
Padron Londres is a Corona at $5.30. Came in at a 90 rating, and this is just kind of your standard Padron. It's not
I don't
one of
think
their
I've had that.
higher ends. Well, I have, and I thought for a while that Padron was putting all their real effort into their expensive cigars, and that the lesser priced ones in their line had become less interesting. But I haven't smoked one in several years. I may have to go back with this rating. Right?
About 10 years ago, I picked up a handful of cheap Padrones.
Mm-hmm.
I remember thinking, okay, we're just going to try a bunch of these. And I remember not being impressed with most of them, but that may change, and maybe that my palate was different too.
If this got a 90 rating, then something good's going on there.
Something's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Also with a 90 rating, the Corona-sized La Gloria Cubana Glorious. It's their kind of standard wrapper. And
that's a great cigar.
It's a 90-point cigar. The La Galera Connecticut Sipo at $3.80. It's a petite Corona.
Wow.
It scored a 90.
La Galera flies a little under the radar, and I pick them up a lot of times, but their Candela is outstanding.
Really quite
if you
good.
want an interestingly awesome cigar that's not expensive, it's easy to spot. It says La Galera, and it's green.
I don't know if I'm actually saying the name of this correctly, but they have a Maduro torpedo that is out of this world. That's
I think you said Maduro Torpedo correctly.
yeah, well, but I don't know if that's what it's actually called. It probably has some much more descriptive name. So, also at 90, and I haven't had one of these in quite a while. The Gran Habano Connecticut #1 Lunch Break. It's a petite Corona, $5.30. I used to smoke a lot of Gran Habanos, and
I don't know if I've ever
burned
smoked a
myself
Gran
out
Habano.
on they have a kind of a distinctive,
very distinctive
flavor to them, and I kind of burned myself out on that flavor, and I haven't
I'm gonna have to pick
had
one
me
up
in a while.
I
so
think that
would
flies
be worth
under
it.
my radar a little bit. I need to pick one up at some point.
The El Triunfador Favoritos, a $4 cigar. It also says size odd, but it just looks like a really short Robusto. It scored a 90 as well. So did the Saga Short Tails Tomo 5. It's a Dominican cigar, $6. It actually scored a 91. The Nat CCO Casino Real Churchill, slightly larger than the one that scored earlier at an 89, I believe. This one scores a 91.
Is it Chico or Ciccio? How do you say that?
It's CICCO, so I call it
Yeah.
Cico, but who knows if I'm
It's hard to
pronouncing
tell.
it. Yeah.
Ciccio? I don't know how to say
CCO.
it.
The Muwat Nightcrawler. My Uzi weighs a ton. The Nightcrawler is a Robusto, $5.60.
I've had that. That
It's
is
from
quite
Nicaragua,
good.
and it is a 91. The Alec Bradley Max Nano. Size is listed as odd. It's interesting because it's
I've never had the odd size. I've had many of their more standard
Yeah.
size, including that giant 8x80 Max that
right.
they make.
And
yeah.
the Max is a good cigar. This
Yeah.
one, what's interesting about this one is based on the picture, the wrapper leaf is almost like leopard colored. It's got so many different shades
Spots and
of
stuff.
dark brown and black. It's a very interesting look. Again, the Nat Seco Casino Real, this time the double Toro at $5.79, a 92. And that's their top cigar of the best buys of
I'm gonna have to look for
2020.
that.
So we're going to have to go spend some time looking for the Nat Ciso or Seco or however you pronounce it, CICCO. And the line is the Casino Real. 3 of them on this list of different sizes. So it sounds like maybe they're doing something
they're doing
right
something
there.
right, especially at that price point.
So I thought that was an interesting list, and it's
So you had
always
two
great.
undercrowns on there, and then 3 of the Nat Chico,
Couple of undergrounds, couple of muwats,
a couple of the muwats on there, right?
and then a few
Drew
other
Estate's
sort of
killing
things.
that list pretty,
Yeah,
pretty much, yeah.
and that's really good. I think of Drew Estates as being a little more expensive, but they've obviously got some cigars
Man,
coming
they
in
wrap
under
up
$6.
They wrap up their cheapy cigars, man. I smoked those factory smokes on a semi-regular basis because they're so cheap and they're just fine.
Yeah.
They're not great cigars,
The factory smoke,
but
is
for
quite good.
$2, they're kind of good.
Yeah, you gotta love that. That gives you a lot of room to play on the price to quality scale.
That's exactly right.
It really does. So, Joe, we tried your rye that is still, as you said, in development.
Still in development. Yep.
And then you mentioned that you put some of the rye into this next blend. So tell us about
right.
what's next.
I don't know how much I want to tell you. I want you to try it first.
Okay.
All right, so here's
All right, so we'll go with the whiskey first. Which one?
Go with,
which one first? The lighter or the darker?
go with the lighter one first.
Okay, here we go. Adam, I'll pass that to you.
Pass them on.
All
I
right.
feel like we're stacking the deck here because I do like whiskey.
Yeah. Well,
so
Like I'm predisposed.
yeah.
so here's what we've done. This, we took the first one you had, the control, if you will. We took that out of the barrels relatively early. Some of it's out of the barrels a little bit early. Some of it's still aging a little bit. It's not quite done, but it's ready.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's ready enough.
It's good. It's okay.
Now, as that's gonna stay on its path for a little while longer. I've diverted it, and it's going into these other barrels, and these are two related barrels, same wood, different treatment. And I know what is this B? I know kind of what that one tastes like because I've had that one already.
B is the lighter one.
But
right?
the darker one, I just took out of the barrels this morning. I haven't
so
even
we
tried
don't
it.
even know.
I have
right,
no idea.
so-
it may be terrible.
So let me ask you this: is the difference just aging, or is the difference what it could
It
have been
gets
blended
all of its
with?
color and 60% of its flavor from the barrel,
Okay. So the difference is how long it's been in the barrel
and what the barrel
and what the barrel
is.
was
Yeah.
to begin
So these
with.
are all the same whiskey.
Okay.
Like they're this. They start off here,
They're that rye, the control.
right? And
yeah.
this is the two paths.
okay.
that it went down.
So the first one, the lighter color. Tell me again. This is
It is rye,
yeah,
the same rye.
right. But tell me about the barrel.
We'll drink it first.
Okay.
So I'm smelling like on
you
this
tell
one. I'm
me.
smelling a little vanilla and oak, like right off the nose.
Okay. So what we had
Like,
said
I'm
about
going back to the previous,
yeah, what we said about the rye to begin with was that it was good,
which
but
has
you
a little maple syrupy to it. This has less of that, but it has a little of that vanilla and.
Come. See, this is like part of my job.
this is taking it. This is taking
I
it to a
want to go
whole
to
other
work
place.
with you.
A couple of weeks ago, I was up in Dallas doing this, and we had a bunch more bottles, and I've kind of narrowed it down to.
This has such a clean
theme.
finish to it. This particular whiskey, even cleaner than the last one. The oaky notes and the vanilla notes are much more pronounced in this.
I think tomorrow may be, and if it's not, I'll just proclaim it to be right now. It might be take your buddy to work day.
There might be.
So you take your
Go on,
buddies.
see what we're doing.
There's like
Take your buddies
almost
from smoking
no-
and toasting to work day.
There's almost no heat to this one as well.
You're right. It is very. Can we say smooth? Is that a bad word?
No,
for,
that's fair.
yeah.
See, I think that the treatment on
silky.
B kind of mellows out. I think kind of rounds out and mellows out the original flavor in
So,
A.
is there a marshmallowy kind of flavor on the aftertaste
Yes.
on this?
Absolutely, there is.
Okay.
Now, so what you've done
fair.
here by aging this in this barrel that you have not revealed yet is you've taken a very straightforward spirit and you've now given it. It's a wonderful example of how much nuance is added by the barrel because this is far more nuanced than the original one.
Which is the intent. Yeah.
Which is what you're
Right,
after, right?
exactly.
So you take that control, as you called it, and
It's-
and you see what the different barrels
Yeah.
will do to it.
It's amazing to think that that's the same whiskey as
as the first
because
one,
the
right?
other one's so simple. Like it was so simple,
Right.
so straight ahead, and then you just came in and scribbled all over it with crayon.
And see, that's why I don't think the first one's quite done. I want it to be a little bit more robust, but not so robust that it just punches you every time you drink it. But the diversion into the new barrel kind of gives it a little bit more complexity,
How
but
long
doesn't
was
give
it
it the same
in
robustness.
this barrel?
It's a very small barrel, so we're talking.
So lots of
about a
surface,
gallon.
Very small.
lots
yeah,
of surface
it was
to
a
liquid.
gallon, so
Yeah.
we're talking just about a week,
Wow.
which is the equivalent of about 2 years.
But it's just because
So-
it's so small of a barrel that you
Right.
get, it imparts the flavor
intensity
that
is
that
big.
gives
Yeah,
that.
there's more surface area than the liquid.
So-
just about.
So let me ask you this: how do you know? Because again, I'm terrible with math. So all of my skills, if I were to have any in this area, would be in the trial and error category, right? So I would say, okay, we'll take this and then we'll put it in this. We'll try that and see how it tastes. How do you, when you taste this, how do you differentiate between, okay, this is it. This is our product. This is what we want to bottle and sell. Or, like you say, wanting to take your initial control spirit and take it a little further and then try it like that. And it's what is it that makes you say, okay, we got it?
This is how we do that.
Okay.
It is
this
a lot
whole
of trial
process.
and error, but it also there comes a point where you've done enough trial and error that you can you narrow down the zone where you know it's going to be ready. So instead of starting to test it around week 6 or 7 or 8 or you can kind of narrow it down, like it'll be ready somewhere between 7 and 9.
So
And then you start, instead of starting way early and keeping going,
a slight
there's a color
sidebar.
and a flavor that you're looking for.
Slight
Yes.
sidebar here: if you're ever at a festival or at one of those outdoor events,
like a whiskey event or something like
even
that?
a whiskey events where they have the people that have the little charred barrels that you can put your whiskey in,
Yeah.
and you have mediocre whiskey at home, that's a great way to make it more
Make it more interesting. Yeah.
It will make it more interesting. It will not turn a donkey into a racehorse.
I'm not
But
saying it's making
I have-
it better, but
it
it is
can,
going to
uh,
make it more
It
interesting.
can definitely make it different.
I have some Johnny Walker Blue.
And that may be all it needs, is just a little bit different.
I have a bottle of Johnny Walker Black. Would it make that interesting?
That might hurt the barrel.
Wouldn't hurt.
It'll certainly make it better than doing shots of it by itself.
It'll make it different.
So here's the thing. I would be tempted to say, you got this. Bottle it. Send it out.
It's really
People
good.
will buy it.
That's really good.
But
Well, the
you're
science,
thinking maybe you're not quite there?
the science wasn't done yet.
Okay.
So when you're doing experiments, you do different iterations and you compare. Yeah, I was pretty satisfied with this.
There's
Yeah.
a softness to the palate on
Well,
this
this
one,
really
too.
is, too.
Thank you. But there's
It's a
also
very interesting whiskey.
There's also that what I was saying earlier, that people who like rye because of the way rye tastes, and there's the robustness, the X factor, that's something else. And I wanted to see if we took this wood and
Are you going to
charred
call it Riders on the Storm?
maybe
What was your last
maybe
Rye of the Ancient Mariner?
one? Rye of the Ancient Mariner. I like it.
So I wanted to see what would happen if we took this wood, charred it a little bit more, and put it back on the wood, and that gave it a little bit. I mean, you can see which camera are we on? You can see the difference in color, how much
Yeah,
darker
yeah.
it is. And I just wanted to see what would happen. Same amount of time on the wood, just a little darker in color.
Oh.
I thought it would give it a little bit more robust
It's
taste.
got a smoky smell.
more of that rye-ness.
rye
for lack
spice.
of a
Yeah,
term.
there's a spice to the rye.
It
There's
really,
a sweetness and a spice, but this smells smoky.
it really makes me think of that. Was it the Nelly song, "Ride with Me"? Is that what I'm thinking?
God, all right,
Ride
all
on
right.
it, my pony. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that was Matthew McConaughey, right? All right, all right, all right.
All right, all right.
I kind of hate myself a little bit for doing that. But,
That's okay. We hate you too.
that's why I'm here.
I'm telling you, this is really delicious.
It's really.
it-
have you tried the
no, I
darker one?
haven't tried the darker one yet.
Smell this. It's so smoky.
Oh yes.
I was so caught up in B here that I hadn't gone to the final one here.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
Oh wow!
I'm very satisfied with that.
I've only done the nose on this, but this
Now
smells like a
this-
completely different spirit.
This
So
is very specific,
what-
though. This is very smoky.
What's
Like,
the difference
this is
between
just the barrel?
the second one and the third one?
So this was, I charred the wood a little bit more
That's that.
with C or A. So C's the control,
Right.
and then I put it on different wood. This was just the wood. This was the wood a little bit more charred.
Fascinating. because you get that char, you get that.
Oh, this is straight up barbecue.
I was going to say, if whiskey could be
In a
defined
good
as
way.
barbecue, that's what this would be. See, I like both of these though for completely different
This
reasons.
is like that really amazing barbecue sauce. It's not too sweet, but has the right amount of smoke
Yeah.
in it too.
Okay, let me just tell you, if you live in Houston, as we do, it is
We do
worth.
compare a lot of life to barbecue sauce.
We do. It's a big part of what we're about as human beings. But if you live in Houston, there is a barbecue place that is near. It's at Richmond and 610. Their barbecue is good, but what you really have to do if you live here is swing in there and buy as many jars as you can carry home of the barbecue sauce from Luling City Barbecue.
Yeah, their barbecue
Because
sauce is
that
amazing.
sauce is one of the best I've ever encountered
Yeah.
anywhere. And I've had barbecue sauce all over this great nation.
You know who else has oddly good sauce?
Who's that?
Rudy's.
Rudy's. You're so right. Rudy's is
Very true.
wonderful. For a chain, they're unbelievable.
Local chain, and that sauce, their regular sauce, is really good.
And I
This-
would be
This is not like Rudy's sauce. This is
No.
outstanding. I love the smokiness in this.
I would be remiss though if I didn't mention Papa's Barbecue.
Mm.
Holy moly, their barbecue is good. Okay, so
But their
this
sauces are not great.
their sauces are okay,
They're not.
but their barbecue is
yeah.
fantastic.
So if you can take Rudy's or Luling barbecue sauce and put it on the Papas,
That's why I buy
mean, that's-
the Luling
yeah.
barbecue sauce and take it home.
I get this Van
Compare
Rolling
it
one.
back to the
that's-
control.
That's I get this Van
This is the
Rolling one.
control
That's
again?
habanero
That's the
sauce.
control right there.
That's control.
All right, we're going backwards now.
Compare it back to the control. See, this is work at the distillery for real.
Interesting.
But I can't do this all myself because I'm biased. I have my own particular flavor palette. so
I
have to get
literally
input.
can't taste anything except for
The smokiness of
brightest
the-
part of the rye spice out of the control.
Yeah.
Yeah, control. Control is more than just a Janet Jackson
I will
album.
tell you. So, have you had the who makes that Camp West smoky whiskey?
I don't know.
We
I'm
had
not sure.
it. I
Not
think.
sure I remember.
I think Jeremiah turned us on to
Maybe,
that over
yeah.
at B&B. High West.
High West.
High
yeah.
West makes their campfire. This has some element of that, but then a rye spice
I like this
to it.
better
that's,
than I like that.
That's so interesting. Yeah, we keep coming back to this one.
Okay,
The
so I don't know what
right,
more
you
you're
want the
going
reveal?
to do.
Would you like the reveal?
Yes.
Okay. So we took the control, put it on pecan wood.
So that was the first one we tried, the lighter
Right.
color one.
And that gave it
just
the,
pecan.
the vanilla and
Right.
the...
And then we took that same pecan wood out of the bag and charred it, dropped it in with the same whiskey. So this is charred pecan rye.
So for the third one, the charred pecan, did you the stuff that you charred further and then dropped in, did you go back to control for that, or did you put it in what had already aged in the pecan?
So
We
you dropped
diverted it
in
on
charred
two
pecan
paths.
staves.
Uncharred pecan and charred pecan.
Okay. This is
I love this.
wonderful.
This is awesome. And I really
I'm
want to try...
very excited about the
I
charred
really
pecan.
want to try
Yeah.
this with that Kentucky Fire Cured Muat.
Oh, wouldn't that be a great? Yes, because
They'd either
I'm not a-
fight each other brutally or get along like best friends.
well, I'm not a
Like, there's
huge
no middle
fan.
ground.
I'm not a huge fan of those infused cigars. That
you
are
got to
the
have a
barbecue.
second humidor for that.
But yes, you do. but I will say, with something like this, it might work.
yeah.
You might have this
I'm super
smoky
interested to try it.
experience. And let me
I
just
was really glad when you brought up the barbecue.
Yeah.
It smells like a barbecue. It does.
This
because I
would be
use pecan wood.
amazing with barbecue.
yeah.
Absolutely.
You're not kidding. And what's really what I really have to say, this is a completely different smokiness than the peat smokiness for
Yes.
whiskey.
Oh, yeah, very much.
This is it's like the difference between barbecue and smoked
Well,
meat.
just putting
You
this
know?
across your nose is like walking past a barbecue joint.
Which is a wonderful thing
Oh,
to do.
it's such a good smell.
It's hard to do.
Such a
we'll
good
walk
smell.
on
So
past.
good.
Yeah. It's not. Okay, we got to take a break. We will be back. Drinking news is coming up in the next segment, and we will be continuing to sip on this and talk about it. I think because this is what I love is how distinctively different these are.
They turn out really.
They're huge different.
They
Yeah.
travel very different paths. Yeah.
And really, and I know you used a very small barrel, but in really a very short amount of time.
Right.
Fascinating. Okay, we'll take a break. We'll be back. Drinking News is next. Drinking Stories. And Ian has the ukulele ready to rock.
That's kind of that's the best analogy I've got so far.
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting, show number 228. We are brought to you by the fine folks at mycigarshirts.com. Great shirts for cigar lovers on the web, mycigarshirts.com, because
Cigars.
Yes.
I want to say kudos to Wiki Brian. He's saying watching while waiting his 15 minutes, second shot done.
Yeah, that's the 15-minute waiting period after you get your vaccination.
Right. Bruce Stark saying he's got his second shot coming up. Not shot. That's different. His second shot coming up tomorrow morning. I got mine coming up on the 20th.
Okay, I got my second shot last week, so I'm very excited. And I'll just mention that also on the show comments, Alan Denny says, I drink it alone. It's sad. I'm not sure what he was referring to, but I relate, Alan, and miss you, brother. We have to get together soon. So, Ian, are you going to open beer first or play ukulele first?
Oh, did you? I didn't know what the...
Because it's time.
It's time?
For Drinking News.
Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. I asked about his absent arm. He said, I had to take my gator to the vet. Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. So we've mentioned this before, and today's Drinking News is an example of doing something a little bit different. Instead of a Florida man story, these are stories that people shared with Jimmy Fallon of The Tonight Show about the things that they did when they were really drunk. So today's Drinking News is about drinking and the fruits thereof. These are a number of different comments that were shared, and in case you missed the episode of Jimmy Fallon, which I try to do on a regular basis, you may not have heard some of these. So let me share you. These are all via tweets from real people.
I can say that over the course of the pandemic, when Jimmy Fallon was doing his show in front of an empty studio, that with no laughter at all, is probably the most authentic his show has ever been.
Well, and I would agree with that. He's actually Jim Fallon's actually very funny, but sometimes he gets caught up in his own funniness.
He thinks he's really funny.
Yeah,
too.
exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Sometimes he'll have somebody. There was a segment where they were doing impersonations or having people like sing in different celebrity voices, and he had Jamie Foxx on, who's like one of the best vocal impersonators ever. Yeah. But they kept having to alternate and let Jimmy Fallon do one too, and it's like, come on, you got Jamie Foxx. Like, if I'm
let him have it. The vocal, the celebrity lip sync ones. The first few of those were pretty awesome.
And I will say one thing I do appreciate about him is he's not afraid to just be enthusiastic about his guests and
he's
show
very
business.
entertaining.
He doesn't have to be like cooler than the room. But yeah, he is impressed with his own.
He's gotten
sense
much
of
better
humor.
than the first 2 weeks when he got drunk on every show.
Yeah, and speaking of,
they wouldn't let him drink anymore.
Speaking of, here are tweets some people shared with Jimmy on Drinking News. Yeah, Marco says, one time I was so drunk that I called my local pizza shop, which is called Mario's Pizza, ranting about Luigi not getting enough credit and how everything is always about Mario, even saying that he has his own pizza shop. I thought that was pretty good. Kay Rose says, I woke up the next morning and realized that I had texted everyone in my contacts list and invited them to join me in forming a Nickelback cover band called Knacklebick.
Wow.
That's just funny because who would do that? Betsy says, after a long day and night of drinking, I woke up in bed and went to grab my phone. It wasn't there, but there was a piece of toast in its place. After looking around the house for the phone, I found it in the microwave covered with melted cheese.
Nice.
Yeah. I think we can all relate to some of these.
I mean, who hasn't found their phone in the freezer at least once?
Exactly. But in the microwave covered with melted cheese. That's a.
I have
that's
hidden
a
my
pretty good
wife's
one.
phone in the freezer before.
Yeah, okay.
That was hilarious.
Ashley Lynn says, I was trapped in an elevator. Used the emergency phone freaking out till the door opened and I was rescued. Couldn't figure out why my rescuers seemed so annoyed. Turned out I wasn't trapped. In my drunken state, I just forgot to press a button. That's pretty good. This one, I'll just say, I don't want to know any more details than what they reveal here. This is enough. Went out with $20. Woke up with $250, 3 lighters, 2 phones, and the keys to someone else's car.
Now
Nice.
that's a night out.
Yeah, that.
Someone needs to tell them how that night went.
I would say we've all been there, but hopefully we haven't actually all been there. Kay Rose says, I once got drunk by myself and spent the entire night trying to call the White House just so I could ask Donald Trump if the J in his name stands for Jasmine. What's funny is that actually happened. You know, it wouldn't be funny just all by itself, but the fact that those phone calls actually happened, that's pretty funny. Tisa says, I once got so drunk, I cried hysterically because my parakeet had to live his entire life without hands. Jesse Betts says, one time I got drunk with an old teacher from high school, and apparently at some point during the night, I raised my hand and asked him if I could use the bathroom. See, these are pretty good.
Hold on. Bruce chimed in. He says, I got drunk one time and couldn't find my way home. There was a Domino's pizza place right there. So I ordered a pizza be delivered and followed the guy to my house. Win-win, I got a pizza.
That is good.
When I got home.
That's good. That totally should have been on this list. There's 2
Nice.
more. L&O says, I came home overserved and showed my ID to my dad at the front door of the house at 4 a.m., thinking it was another bar. My dad was in full cop uniform, headed out to go to work. I got in, but was not allowed out for a while.
Wow.
And finally, Brock Clark shares, I decided to rename all the contacts in my phone with their spirit animal. Who the hell is Eternal Baby Chinchilla? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your drinking news.
Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Drinking news. Drinking news. That was time for drinking news.
By the way, did you put the photo up? Yeah, I didn't ask it. We don't endorse getting as drunk as these people clearly did, but be that as it may, it does happen. Think of those as cautionary tales and drink responsibly. And since these didn't come with photos, please enjoy this picture of a Brontosaurus taco holder.
Brontosaurus.
Just,
I didn't know what to put in.
Yeah, exactly. You didn't know where to put that in because, exactly. No,
I know exactly where to put a Brontosaurus. I need like 4 more though when I'm gonna have dinner.
Totally.
You put it where
totally.
you have tacos.
Totally.
I got to tell you. So there's so many good Tex-Mex and Mexican restaurants when you live in Houston. But there are times when I go to one and I literally just want a crispy taco, and it's such a good thing. It's like ordering the lowest thing on the menu, when you go to places that have like filet mignon.
Right. And you know,
Fajitas and stuff,
I'll
you're
have
like,
the ground beef taco.
I'll
you like
have
sirloin in your
picadillo,
taco?
Crispy
No.
tacos, please.
I'm telling you, there's still nothing quite like Jack in the Box drive-through tacos at 3 a.m.
All right, I hate to admit this, but a few times on the way home, my wife loves to stop and get those cheddar peppers or the cheddar.
At Jack in the Box?
At Jack in the Box.
Yeah,
Like that's her. Like if she's good and toasty, she's like we're stopping and getting those. And the last time we pulled through, I saw they had tiny tacos. Have you seen this thing?
Oh, I've had tiny tacos.
Oh, not only do they have
Ooh.
tiny tacos, but they got loaded tiny tacos.
Yeah, that's where they just dump a whole bunch of cheese and bacon on them.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
Those are not on the South Beach diet.
No. They're not on any diet. Thanks, Jack.
They are so bad for you. But they're so, like
but boy, are they yummy.
You can't.
Yeah.
You like. There's 15 of them in that little tub.
Yeah.
And you eat them all, and you're like, I want more.
And the crazy
they're so
thing is,
little.
it's like
Yes.
they took the combination of ingredients that they thought, how can we put together what would be the absolute worst dietary thing for you possibly
The
to eat?
questionable beef filling to taco ratio is much better.
Oh, I know. And then at the point that they got all that together, they go, how can we take it one step further? I know. We'll deep fry them. Yeah?
Yes. And then we're going to pour some cheese. And not like good cheese.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Not at all. No.
You know that stuff you get at the...
This is concession stand cheese is what this is. Yeah. It's concession
This is that
stand
giant
cheese.
can that says Rico's, but it's the generic version.
Yeah.
Yeah. Riku's with 2 O's. Yeah.
I was craving nachos with that kind of
Yeah.
cheese
Oh,
in
yeah.
particular
Oh, yeah.
last year during the baseball season.
Right, because you couldn't go to the baseball stadium
Right.
and you couldn't go to the movies. Where
Right,
you can
because
also
that's the
get
only
that.
place you can get that cheese.
Right.
And I went and I bought
tell
some
you
nachos, I bought the cheese, I bought the jalapenos, and I made myself baseball nachos. And
That's
I watched
awesome.
baseball
And you
games.
have to have crappy jalapenos
Oh,
for
yeah.
that.
Out
You
of
have
the-
to have like
out of the
Pick
can.
ones out of the can.
The
Out of the
crappiest
can.
cheap, like in a can, not like in a jar where you can open it.
No,
You have to,
no,
like,
it has to be a
Gotta be
can
out
where
of
they've
can.
been
My
sitting
wife-
on the shelf at the
My
grocery
wife
store
found
for
this,
3 years.
Questionable
if you go to
vintage.
the Velveeta section of your store,
Which is not the cheese section.
it is not the
entirely
cheese
different section of the store.
I'd like to point out that this segment of the show has devolved to the point where we just use the phrase "the Velveeta section of your store."
They have this box and it has 3 little packets of like pourable Velveeta cheese
yes,
stuff.
as if regular Velveeta wasn't,
Right, well, you
pourable
have to
enough.
microwave that. That takes way too long.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah.
But
You
this
don't have
stuff,
3 minutes to spare.
like we made some hot dogs the other night,
Uh-huh.
and like chili cheese hot dogs, and
Yes.
that is the right kind of cheap,
Oh yeah,
awkward cheese to put on
awkward cheese. That's they should just change the name from Velveeta to awkward
Awkward
cheese. I like it. Ian, open up that porter, why don't you?
Yes, sir.
It's a Leinenkugel's vanilla porter, and it is actually called Snowdrift. That is the name.
Yeah,
and
this is a winter.
You mentioned, by the way, Leinenkugels is
Seasonal
now
that they
owned
have.
by, is it Miller Coors that owns
Molson
Leinenkugels?
Coors,
Molson
yeah.
Coors, yeah.
So they were originally owned by AB InBev, and then they were
Yeah, back when I was a kid, it was Bush.
Bush, and
Yeah.
then AB InBev bought them. I think.
Okay.
I think that's how it happened. I'm heavy.
Well, yeah,
pouring
InBev
again.
bought
Well, Miller
Bush.
Coors is a different one, so you might have to read the label on this. Ian.
Molson Coors. It's Molson that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was a few years back when Coors and Molson merged.
Okay.
And,
Porter with
Miller
vanilla,
and someone
robust
else.
porter aged on real vanilla. On real vanilla, what? It just says aged on real vanilla. 6%.
Well, it could vanilla extract. It could be vanilla beans.
Vanilla
Oh,
envelopes.
did you know that they
Vanilla
actually?
ice?
Envelopes.
Envelope.
Did you know they actually have a phonetic spelling of Leinenkugels?
Of Leinenkugels? Oh, see.
Line-N-Ku-Gulls.
Well, see,
That's
Leinenkugels.
nice of them.
had we known that, we wouldn't have had to place that phone call back on show number 8 or whatever it was.
All right. What kind of information does this bottle have? Snowdrift Vanilla Porter. 6 generations of family brewing tradition. Through all that and the fact that Molson Coors still owns them, by the way, the family still brews the beer, as
Right.
far as I understand.
Cool. So they still control their own brewery.
Yes.
Kind of like with like Karbach, where the guys still run the brewery. They're just
Yeah.
Right.
part of a bigger family.
But
So-
do they?
It says Union made, Iowa, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, 5 cents.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to read all the information on
I
here.
understand.
Anyway, I'll leave it alone.
And I'll also add, if there's any major consolidator that would like to do that same thing for our distillery.
So if Jack
Every man
Daniels
has a
came a
price.
calling, if Jack Daniels came a calling,
You know,
and see,
let
this
us
is,
keep our name. Let me keep running it. I'll take
but
all
honestly,
your money. Come
this,
on, baby.
this is why it's hard for me, because I really do believe in the American dream and capitalism. It's hard for me to feel badly towards Karbach, for example,
No, I
for
feel great
taking
for
a
those guys.
buyout from. I still don't like
Well,
AB.
I don't feel bad for
Feel great for
Karbach
those
at
guys.
all, man. Those guys, hey,
Absolutely.
make your money, man. Good for them.
Yeah.
Now, I don't buy a lot of Karbach beer right now because I don't want to put money in AB InBev's pockets. But I don't feel bad for them selling it out. Good, live the American dream.
Yeah,
I wish
I
I
mean,
had those millions. They
we-
make more money than I do.
We don't start these businesses to paint pictures and make art. I mean, part of it is art and craft, but also, we need to feed our family. And, if we just wanted to have a job and make
Listen,
we could get a job.
I'm a
but
guitar player, right? I
I'm
can
more than
go
willing
home
to take a couple of comments
and
to
play anything that I
do
want.
whatever I want.
love jazz.
Right.
I love blues. I love classical music. But if Britney Spears called me tomorrow, I'd be Britney Spears playing like a bastard.
Yeah,
Damn right. Damn right.
You'd be the best Britney Spears guitarist they'd ever
I
seen,
play the
right?
shit out of Britney Spears.
I mean, we're all in this to make money.
The Leinenkugel's
Without question.
the Leinenkugel's website talks about the 5th generation of the Leinenkugel family, and it says under the guidance of Jake, Dick, and John Leinenkugel, the brewery continued to thrive. They were bought by Miller Brewing Company in 1988.
Oh, it was Miller Brewing
Miller.
So
Company.
Got
the
it.
partnership has allowed Leinenkugel to share its quality brews with beer lovers all over the world. And then they talk about how they opened the new brewing area and the lodge, and then they go on to the 6th generation. But again, I'll say this: if the big companies can ever figure out that buying the smaller companies and allowing the craftsmen who made that product something that was worth having them pay money for it in the first place
Yeah.
to do their thing and continue to create the craft beer, the craft distilled spirits that they've been making. I mean, to me, that's why you buy it. I've never understood why people buy
if
things
Budweiser
and
buys
change
it, they
them.
can always make it more Budweiser.
Well,
They can.
Yeah.
But if a consolidator can buy a small operator and keep the small operator running, one
Right.
of the things that's the biggest challenge for a small operator is simply access to capital.
well,
And we would make 1,000 cases a month if we had enough money to make 1,000 cases.
Yeah, you got to buy ingredients.
and you also have to think distribution.
Yeah, bottles cost money and
Carbox,
barrels
for
cost money,
example,
but
is in
so do trucks.
every store in the greater Houston area. If
Yeah.
they sell beer, they have Carbox.
Yep.
And they're in a lot of bars, the same thing. I continue
The
to
only
complain
thing-
if that's the
the
only craft
thing
beer
that,
they
that
have.
Access
drives
to
me
distribution
crazy about
networks
the
is huge,
Carbox distribution thing is that they're also considered a craft beer, but they're not. They're macro craft. So
Right.
when I have a store
Sure.
like the one next to my house has 2 refrigerator doors, okay, that are craft beer. So it's a very small amount of the rest of it, okay. Then there's like 7 refrigerator doors that are all blue, and then there's like 6 of them that are all red and white, right?
Right.
So I get 2 doors, and one of them is filled entirely with Carbox. And it's not a whole bunch of different Carbox either.
Right. It's tons
It's
of Love
almost
Street and
all
tons of
5 cases of one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost all Love Street and Crawford Bach.
Right. And Love Street's pretty
Yeah.
good.
How do you
Crawford
feel
Bach, I
about
think,
this Leinenkugel?
is not. I actually really like it. It's
tasty.
It's very straightforward. It's not something you would expect to find in a bomber bottle like we opened here, of something that had been really heavily aged in bourbon barrels for a long time or whatever. But as a straightforward, you could buy a 6-pack of it, vanilla porter. I think it's pretty good.
I think it's okay. There's nothing special about it. It's fine. This is the Luby's of vanilla porter right here. Like, there's nothing to complain about this particular.
God rest their restaurant soul.
Right?
Yeah.
Well-
Luby's not around anymore.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Well, a restaurant based on less flavor equals more people.
Yeah.
They spent 5 years in hospice care.
And that's
come
not,
on.
and I'm not totally dissing it. I mean, the less flavor you put in something, the more people like it. Let's talk about McDonald's.
Right.
I mean,
Right. Taco
and
Bell.
that's kind of, that sounds like, yeah, exactly. That's kind of like, yeah, Taco Bell is Mexican food?
Ish.
Question mark.
Yeah.
Mexican-ish.
Mexican-ish, yeah.
It's not even Tex-Mex, right? It's just
It's Mexican
well, Tex-Mex
food.
would have a lot more heat in it, but this is the run of the mill. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with this other than the fact that there's nothing great about it either.
It's a good mainline.
And that was
vanilla
one of the
porter.
reasons I wanted to bring it in, because the last time we had last week we had a porter. It was a Baltic porter, and it was like crazy
Outstandingly
special.
good.
How does something like this, that's a lot less expensive, stack up against it? And I think what you're saying is about like you would expect. Like it's not as good, but it's not bad.
This is the Miller Lite to that Baltic Porter.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
and it's
gotcha.
okay. There's nothing special, but I think part of the problem with some of the macro brews, the macro crafts, I think part of the problem with the macro crafts is they don't get to do anything super outside anymore.
Well,
Right.
with the exception of
I never see that,
with the exception of like when Goose Island does their their barrel selection every year. And
That's
stuff.
an institution, though,
Right.
and I think that that's a special case.
Well, and I think you're onto something here, because when you look at a Leinenkugel's that is now owned by and distributed by Miller Beer. Everything they do has got to be scalable to a very large extent because they want to take this vanilla porter and they want to get it in every store they've got access to around the country.
Absolutely.
So it's not about crafting something small, unique, and special. It's about what can we create on a massive basis.
Yeah, because you can probably find this in Minot, North Dakota.
Right.
Yeah. And that was one of the cool things about the whiskey industry before Prohibition was that every farm had a still, every town had a distillery. You had different flavors in different regions, and you didn't have to sell a lot of whiskey.
Right. You could create smaller, craftier batches and sell them locally.
But when everything consolidates to Kentucky, now you have 6 major producers. They're all coming out of the same region. Everything tastes kind of generally the same. Not
Don't
identical,
forget
but
to
generally,
feed the distributors, too.
And they've got to sell it to millions of people.
Yeah.
So it all kind of becomes macro craft.
Well, it's kind of
And
like it's
that's
kind of like
not
with
the
radio.
same as having 100 different whiskey makers.
When Clear Channel bought, most of the radio stations in the country,
Ever.
they all became almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of individual diversity. And what's interesting to me, though, is in the world that we live in now, people are, by and large, less interested in those mass things.
When
They're interested in what's unique
years ago-
and interesting.
Yeah.
Years ago, when what you're talking about there, I'll wrap this up real quick. But what you're talking about there, when Clear Channel bought up everything, I remember because Clear Channel owned a chunk of Houston pretty early. But I remember driving to Baytown, or not Baytown, but Beaumont for gigs, which is about an hour and a half outside of Houston, right? And picking up Beaumont radio stations that were way better.
Way more interesting.
Way better music.
Yeah, but
than
eventually,
anything in Houston.
Eventually, Clear Channel bought all of those as
Then
well.
they bought all those.
So
And then they were
now
all
they sound
gone,
exactly, exactly the same.
And I could go from Houston to Austin and pick up the spot in Houston and the spot in Austin, and they're kind of the same. They're different radio stations, but they're kind of the same.
But not.
Kind of, different but not. All right, we'll take a break and be back for our final segment. This has been a lot of fun comparing. This has been, in my opinion, this is one of the most interesting experiments, if you want to call it that we've been able to do in telling the difference that barrels make. And what's crazy is it was over such a short period of time. So we may want to go back and revisit that as we say goodbye in our final segment. Smoking and Toasting, show number 288. We'll come back and talk about what we've learned today after this.
Not bad.
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Show number, did I say 288 or 228? Sorry.
735.
The whiskey was talking.
You're aging me.
Yeah, the whiskey was talking.
960.
Craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars, Smoking and Toasting, brought to you by mycigarshirts.com. Please go check them out. They are our sponsor, and they do good stuff. And it all starts at under $20, which is pretty affordable for T-shirts. So want to thank Joe Breda from Old Humble Distilling for coming in today, bringing such an This has been a very interesting show to me because it's not just tasting awesome whiskey, but it's tasting the differences that this barrel aging makes
In process.
and in process.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like I've gotten a great education in all of this. So
For what it's worth, I expect these will be ready around September.
okay, and what
Ish.
do you know what you'll call them?
Nope.
Okay, so that'll be interesting too, right?
We'll find out when it happens.
All right.
Is your distillery open?
It's not yet open to the public.
You said you had some future stuff going on.
Yeah, we've
What is your projected date on that?
soon.
Okay.
It depends on when the build-out's done and when the approval from the fully occupancy, all that stuff from the county comes. Early summer,
All right.
late spring, somewhere in that neighborhood. I'm hoping we can do it
Expect
for.
to be hanging out at Old Humble Distillery at the 4th of soon.
So
yeah, but we're
remind-
definitely going to have a full schedule of shows, concerts. I mean, I'm set. I'm ready. We got pent up demand.
Yeah, obviously you guys are in Humble, Texas, which is a northern suburb of Houston. But your name, there's a section of Humble called Old Humble. Is that right?
Humble is a town on 59 North, It started off as Jackrabbit Junction because it was a picnic spot on a rail line going north out of Houston
Okay,
where
time
people
out.
would stop and shoot
You
jackrabbits.
got to name one of your whiskeys at some
I know,
point.
right?
Jackrabbit Junction, right?
That
would
would
be
be
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I'm still shooting for Rye of the Ancient Mariner.
It eventually got the name of Humble because of Pleasant Humble, who was the first postmaster in that area.
Okay.
And it was Humble, Pleasant Humble's postal
Post
station.
office, yeah.
And you go to Humble store, and it became Humble that area. There was an oil strike on Moonshine Hill, where the Humble Oil Company was founded and became eventually ExxonMobil
Okay.
over several iterations. But yeah,
I found myself. I went to go pick up someone from the airport, and the airport, Intercontinental Airport's not too far from Humble,
right?
and their plane was delayed by 2 hours. So I thought to myself, I will go to a bar, and I found this bar that claims to be like the oldest bar in Humble,
Green Oak Tavern.
and they were very proud of their wall that you pee on in the bathroom.
Oh,
Okay.
really?
It was very strange.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
tall stall.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very weird.
Tall stall. Okay, well. But
It's
you guys.
one of those stalls that goes all the way down to the floor.
So is it, I guess the question I'm really asking is, are you located in a historic area?
We are not
Old
in the
Humble?
historic area of Humble. We moved out of Humble city limits.
Okay.
And we are down 1960 towards Lake Houston
right.
in a community that was formerly known as Continental Plaza. It was a ghost town of a suburb, ghost town of a planned community that was built in the 80s but never got built. Mm-hmm. Guy took the property money and took off to UAE or someplace like that. It was in litigation until the early 2000s, and for like 30 years was a place where high schoolers went and partied and bonfired and drank.
Sound like it's got some good history then. Yeah.
There is one true, honest-to-God ghost story
Yeah.
of a person that we lovingly refer to as Burning Mary, who lit herself on fire in a sleeping bag somewhere in the woods near our distillery.
And there are about 47 different country songs written about partying in places like this. So,
yeah. And now they're true spirits in
yeah.
the Continental Plaza area, mostly whiskey.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you for bringing these whiskeys on. This was so educational, and so I learned so much about the differences that char and barrels and aging can make, and it's fascinating. And you're onto something.
There's a ton of fun being
both of these, the pecan wood and the extra charred. Can't wait for this. This is exciting stuff. So thank you so much for being
Thanks
on
for
the show
having me.
today.
It's always fun.
We always love having you on. Quick plug for your podcasts and your stuff that you do on YouTube.
Thursday nights at 9:00 on our YouTube channel, Old Humble Distilling Company on the YouTubes. We do a podcast every night or every Thursday night at 9:00. It's me. Always me, it's usually a guest. We talk about whatever. It's a happy hour. Mm-hmm. It's a
times,
1 hour
yeah.
happy hour, just like we used to do when you could be around people. Whatever comes up, usually movies. I talk about whatever that person does, whether it's burlesque or sideshow or comedy or science. I had actual honest-to-God biosphere scientist on the show one
Awesome.
time, and we talked about life support systems in space. Fascinating, fun stuff. Tune in, subscribe, and find us on all the other socials: Instagram, Twitter, Facebooks, and whatnot.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. It has been a very, very fun show for me. I've really enjoyed this. And next week, Aaron from St. Arnold will be joining us.
That's going to be fun.
We've had St. Arnold on the show before, but this will be Aaron's first appearance. So I'm really excited about seeing what he has to bring. St. Arnold is changing. They're the oldest craft brewery in Texas, but this last year they have changed dramatically.
Big changes.
In how they have approached the marketing and the production of their beer. So it'll be fun to talk to Aaron about that. Plus, Garrison Brothers will be on the show on the 22nd. So
Cool.
we'll be looking forward to talking whiskey with those guys.
I'm excited about that.
And then on the 29th, don't miss this, because these kind of shows only happen every once in a while. Our resident smoking and toasting tequila expert, Liliana Rodriguez, will be joining us on the show, and we'll be doing an añejo tequila blind taste test for the entire show.
Cool.
No limes and
cannot-
no salt will be harmed in this episode.
That's right. I cannot wait. So have a great week, everybody. Ian, it's great to see you again. Adam, thank you for everything. And Joe, appreciate you being on. Let's. We got to hear from you when these are named, so we know where to find them in our favorite local spots.
There will probably be a poll or something,
Okay, good.
and I
love
might
it.
even respect the outcome.
Riders on the storm.
If you want to ride with me, hey, must be the money.
Is that Winona Ride?
Have a great weekend. Cheers, y'all.
Cheers.